Welcome back, everyone. I really appreciate you being with us at the end of a very intensive day, but I promise you it will be well worth your while to have stayed with us because this is where we're really going to get to the bottom line, so to speak. Our panel is entitled Financing Safe and Sustainable Transport Systems, and clearly, and we've heard it again and again on today's road traffic deaths and injuries obviously impose enormous emotional burdens on those who are affected. What we sometimes forget is the absolutely enormous economic burdens that they also pose, costing some countries, this figure was briefly mentioned, as much as 5% of their gross domestic product. And while massive investment goes into building and expanding transport systems and urban areas, road safety is not always considered from the outset. So there is a very clear case to be made for a very different approach to financing. How can we ensure that investments in all relevant areas take road safety into account and deliver real gains in terms of social, economic, and environmental sustainability? We have a great roster of speakers with us to answer that question, and it is my pleasure now to introduce them. Starting out on the left-hand side with the Vice President of the European Investment Bank, Lilyana Pavlova. Welcome to you.
Hello.
Seated next to her, we met her this morning in the opening session, is Amani Abu-Zaid. She's Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy with the African Union. Welcome to you once again.
Thank you.
And next to her, Colombia's Minister of Transport, Angela Maria Orozco. Great to have you with us. From the UK, Member of Parliament for Huddersfield, Barry Shearman. Welcome. Seated next to him, the Director General for Traffic at Spain's Ministry of the Interior, Pere Navarro. It's a great pleasure to welcome the Vice President for Infrastructure, the Practice Group at the World Bank, Maktar Diop. And finally, representing the private sector on this panel, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Swedish insurer Folksam Group, which is also one of this country's biggest asset managers. And she is Ylva Wesson. Welcome. And I'll ask Ylva to please get us, Pavlova, to please get us started, if you would.
Thank you very much. Shall I start?
You can speak from there or from the podium, as you like.
Maybe I should stand.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon. It was really intensive day, and I will try to be brief, but hopefully touching the most important topics related to financing and related to the point of discussion of our panel, really financing safe and sustainable transport systems. But first of all, I would like really to thank the UN and the World Health Organization, the Swedish host, for the warm welcoming, for the great organization, for us being able to be here today and to discuss really this highly important topic for all of us globally around the world. Before going into the details of our discussion, maybe I should start with the conclusion of saying that I believe that whatever we do, there is an element of road safety. In every sector, in every activity of our daily life, there is a road safety element. And we need to ensure that there is a synergy between those elements in our daily lives. This is the most important element which we need to address and to focus in order to be successful and in order to be able to deliver our strategic goals and our commitments, which we have undertaken today as well with the declaration of this morning as well. But now coming back to our panel, I think we need to address three important questions within our panel. Why does financing on road safety matters? What is our role? And why now? Why does road safety matters? I mean, I think we addressed this issue quite in details throughout the whole day today, not only today, but really safety is really of primary concern of all means of transport, but really roads claim 98% of all transport fatalities worldwide. That is why we need to concentrate on road safety as a primary goal, as a primary objective of all our efforts for the moment. Often, non-motorized road users are not considered real traffic and are neglected in our transport policies, and this is where we definitely need as well to concentrate and to pay special attention. As it was explicitly and very loudly said in the morning by Omnia, by our YAF, World YAF Assembly leaders, we need to pay special attention to our children, to our YAF adults, and they are very special target group for us. The socioeconomic losses due to road accidents indeed represent around 3% of the GDP of each country, which is again a serious figure which should not be underestimated, hitting some countries really disproportionately, and this as well should be addressed, and awareness should be raised significantly. Something important today we have a declaration, we have really the Vision Zero initiated many years ago. Today we have the targets of 2030 agreed of decreasing by 30% deaths by 2030. This is a significant target to reach. We are not yet reaching zero, but it is important really to unite our efforts of all institutions. Single financial institutions can't do it alone, neither the governments can do it alone. We need to unite our efforts. So united, we are strong. This is my second message I want to convey. Why us? As I said, we know how safe roads and safe means of transport should look like. Solutions exist. We know that there are solutions. Most of us, we are aware of those solutions. Financing is available. Each government has its own funding, national funding. International financial institutions, MDBs, do have financial means as well. But the most important thing is how we streamline this financing means, how we have the leverage effect of these financing opportunities, and how we envisaging this funding, really how we streamline this funding, and so to include from the very initial stage and phase of each and every project, for example, in construction in a road construction, already from the start we envisage the road safety measures, for example, in the implementation of the project, in our health systems, in our educational systems, in each and every sector, in each and every policy, we need to have those funds which are available, streamlined, and the synergy ensured as a transversal priority in our society, and really ensured, because we cannot focus only on money themselves. Money are available. We need to streamline it. We need global goals. We need national aspiration. We need earmarked by policies and by strategies, and we need to unify our efforts. And I'm sure my colleagues in the panel will further elaborate on those as well. A few words on myself representing the European Investment Bank, being the biggest multilateral financial institution for more than 60 years, operating in 160 countries around the world, within EU, outside the EU. We provide more than 60 billion on annual basis for funding projects. And 20% of which are dedicated to transport, which means 12 billion annually on transport, and of course to road and road safety infrastructure. So we are ready to finance, we are ready to co-finance and to contribute to and ensure and to finance road safety and to support this infrastructure together with all other institutions. But it is important to embed in each project, like we do environmental impact assessment, cost-benefit analysis, feasibility studies, always to include road safety audits, recommendations, this to be integral part of all projects which we prepare, this to be as a must in all our projects which we do prepare. Something important today in the sidelines of this event, of this important event, we signed a memorandum of understanding with European Road Assessment Program, with the International Road Assessment Program, together with the Road Safety Foundation, to share knowledge and experience and to change something important. For the moment, we are assessing the so-called hotspot, the black hotspots of accidents on the roads based on fatalities, based on the incidents which happened already, where we have lost already lives and where we have the death figures already happened. What is the new approach on which we would like to focus is gathering the reliable data based not on fatalities, but based on really digital data, on surveys, on analysis, on measuring the quality of the infrastructure, and then to have a reliable data, maybe based again as well on artificial intelligence, and to have a forecast, to have a prediction, prevention, or which are the black hotspots on our infrastructure. So when planning, when prioritizing our future investment in road development, in motorways, in development and in investing in our roads, really to finance, to prioritize those projects which are most risky ones, which are in those areas which are most risky and which might endanger and which are might have implication and fatal ending at the end. You're giving a signal I need to end, so I will not give examples of many nice projects we have done in many of the countries which we have been intervening. Just one last maybe word to say, why now? The third question I mentioned, why now? Because it is already late. As our young leaders said today, we need them. We need to listen to our young leaders. We need to hear them. Enough is enough. It is good to have the political commitment. It is really good to have the will, and we have it in place. But now we need to deliver. Now we need to streamline, and now we need to unite our efforts and to have specific deliverables. And I believe this should be the result of our discussion as well. To have ideas, to have some projects, and to be able to deliver today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madame Pavlova. And sorry if I cut you off there, but I want to make sure that we have time to talk about exactly that alignment issue that you were mentioning. We have a saying in English, it's rather vulgar, but it's putting your money where your mouth is, which essentially means walking the talk. So that's what we want to talk about now. And I'm going to start out by discussing a little bit, it sounds dry, but it's really important, the budgetary approach to road safety. So I will ask the three country members on the panel, which is basically the three of you there in the middle, to talk a little bit about how it's done in your respective countries and whether it is a budgetary line item. Is it something that you take in isolation in that way? So I'll start out with the minister from Colombia.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for the invitation to this panel. And I'll just start by saying that we have, a holistic approach. We have a line that started back in 1995-96 with the creation of the Road Safety Fund. We developed an insurance, which is a mandatory insurance for the car accidents that is based on the victim. So the victim, whichever is the driver, the passenger, the pedestrian, the cyclist, is always attended and it's paid by that insurance. And we started the whole process by the year 1996, more or less. For the beginning, what we did was we stabilized the numbers. We have had a huge increase at the beginning of the 90s for road crashes and fatalities. We stabilized the numbers, and then things started to improve by the year 2000. From 2000 to 2005, we started decreasing substantially our numbers. Simultaneously, we developed a public transportation policy in Colombia since the year 2000, in which the national government co-financed massive transportation VRT systems in different cities. And of course, this is financed by long-term financing from the multilateral agencies. And this involved road safety elements within the cities, because all these VRT systems involve all these international consultants, including dedicated trunk lines, including pedestrians and last mile, both cycling footpaths and both pedestrian passes. The last mile issue was always involved in it, and it has been designed within the system. So now we have at least 15 cities in which the government has co-financed the VRT systems. We just allocated also the Bogota Metro. So we have, as you see, a transversal approach, because we have in the big budgets for infrastructure, in these public transportation systems, we have the road safety issues, but we also have specific line for campaigns, educations, regulations, and these type of things. Back in the year 2014, we issued and we put it in our National Development Plan, our Road Safety National Plan, and we created a new agency that replaced the Road Safety Fund. And again, during the first 2 or 3 years, we stabilized the numbers, and numbers start improving right now. By the year 2015, we have more or less 18 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. Today, the year 2019, we have 13.7 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. What we are doing right now really with this specific budget, which is an aligned budget, is working with the territories, changing completely the approach, because initially we had the national plans and we didn't take into account that the different territories, governors and municipalities were responsible for the enforcing the national policy at the local level. So we have changed completely the issue. We have developed a very good standard of information in order to map where the more important risks are, or taking into account, of course, also prospective, how we can prevent it, and design with the regions the specific actions for those regions. Simultaneously, we also have a big public-private partnership program that are national roads, huge. It was a $30 billion program. And when I came into government, I needed to activate this program. And those also in their budgets involve road safety issues. In the board of our National Road Safety Agency, we have not only the Minister of Transport, but also the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education, because we know we have to educate kids. So in a sense, we are using these specific budgets for our agency, for our experts, for discussing regulations, specific regulations like safer vehicles or standards for roads, but we also are involving in our national budget, within the infrastructure budget or the public transportation budget, elements of road safety for designing all these systems.
Thank you. Very helpful. So let me ask how it's being done in the UK, Barry Shearman.
Well, we don't have a budget line. But like most countries, and I chair global legislators for road safety, in most places, the budget line, if it exists, is very often ignored, because road safety is the Cinderella. It's a Cinderella in every country that I know. And why is it a Cinderella that stays at home and gets no finance and gets no fun? It's because we listen to our electorate, and not enough people in our different countries are saying it should be a top priority. And there are not enough politicians that are big beasts who will lead a charge and say, we are going to make this happen because the people I represent won't put up with children being killed. So for me, forget civilized things. And in some civilized countries, they have budget lines and a very good order. But I'm a politician. My job is to try and make ministers do things. And I just know in road safety, it is the Cinderella, and it's about time we did something about it.
Thank you very much. Very clear words there. So let me ask Director General Navarro, how is it done in Spain?
Sí, bueno, en primer lugar, un poco felicitar al gobierno de Suecia por la organización de este evento y por su hospitalidad. No quería dejar de llamar la atención sobre algo que se ha dicho esta mañana aquí. La representante de los jóvenes ha resaltado el gran esfuerzo que está haciendo el mundo de atención y de recursos y de esfuerzo por el tema del coronavirus. 2.000 muertos. Y que invitaba a la reflexión de por qué no hemos sido capaces de conseguir el mismo esfuerzo, atención y recursos dedicados a los accidentes de tráfico. Alguien hablaba esta mañana de 1.300.000 muertes violentas. Deberíamos no olvidar que son muertes violentas. Uno tiene la impresión de que en el mundo actual la guerra, el hambre y los accidentes de tráfico siguen siendo los grandes temas y los grandes retos. Un apunte sobre la importancia, que se ha hablado hoy, de la cooperación. Estamos convencidos de que la cooperación y el intercambio de buenas prácticas es un elemento esencial para avanzar todos juntos en seguridad vial. España hizo su política de seguridad vial junto con Francia. El camino lo hicimos juntos. Íbamos cada 6 meses de un país a otro y los dos íbamos haciendo el mismo camino. Y el resultado fue razonable. Luego recuerdo que fue el Banco Mundial que financió a Argentina que hiciera el camino con España. Y durante 5 años Argentina y España estuvimos caminando juntos, poniendo en marcha, vertebrando la política de seguridad vial. Ahora estamos con Latinoamérica a través del Observatorio Iberoamericano de Seguridad Vial y estamos también trabajando con Argelia por acuerdo de los dos gobiernos. Insisto, la cooperación entre países, el intercambio de buenas prácticas es fundamental. Tercer mensaje, el 2020 fue en el década de la seguridad vial. 2011, Moscú, gran década, objetivos, 5 pilares y demás. No podemos estar satisfechos. Dios mío, en el espacio, en Latinoamérica, en Hispanoamérica, España y Latinoamérica, hay más muertos, hubo el año pasado, por accidente de tráfico que en el año 2009, que hace 10 años. Con lo cual, estamos lejos de los objetivos, no hemos conseguido los objetivos y no hay ningún motivo para estar satisfecho. Y esta es la primera condición, reconocer el problema, para superarlo. Si empezamos aquí todos, bueno, en fin, es verdad que hicimos los 5 pilares y que ha ayudado mucho a vertebrar el debate y a vertebrar las políticas de seguridad vial. Pero los resultados es que en lo nuestro, en seguridad vial, los resultados se miden por muertos. No sé si me explico. O sea, podemos hablar mucho, pero los resultados cantan. Decirles también sobre el tema de la financiación. ¿Se oye? Me he quedado corto. ¿Sí? Vale. En seguridad vial, el gasto público en seguridad vial no es un coste, es una inversión con un inmenso retorno. Repito, no es un coste, sino probablemente es de los gastos públicos que mayor retorno tiene para un país. Invertir, gastar en seguridad vial. En España, sí, hay una línea en el presupuesto del Estado específica que pone seguridad vial, donde están todos los gastos directos. Directos quiere decir la agencia de seguridad vial, quiere decir la política, ayudas a municipios y sobre todo y ante todo quiere decir todo lo que hace referencia a la vigilancia y control. Hacer cumplir, esto lo dice la Unión Europea, hacer cumplir la ley de tráfico es la forma más eficaz de reducir los accidentes, los muertos y los heridos graves. En España la política de seguridad vial, claro que hay concienciación y educación, pero va dirigido a la vigilancia y control, va dirigido al cumplimiento de la norma, que es la forma más eficaz. Y el esfuerzo presupuestario va a la policía de tráfico, dotándola de medios, de recursos y demás. Y además, en fin, no toca dinero, todo se paga en carretera con tarjeta de crédito al momento, cuando está muy con desarrollo tecnológico, y para los medios, las nuevas tecnologías, para la vigilancia y control del cumplimiento, radares, cámaras, para el cinturón, para el control del teléfono móvil. Tenemos en estos momentos ya drones que filman maniobras riesgosas, grandes maniobras temerarias, ya lo estamos utilizando. Todo esto es lo que está incluido dentro de la partida de seguridad vial. Uno. Segundo, el mensaje, conviene no estar a ver cómo va este año el presupuesto. Tiene que tener alguna relación con algún elemento. En España, todo lo que se obtiene por sanciones económicas de tráfico, todo es finalista, va directo a la seguridad vial. Todas las multas, las sanciones, va directo, está comprometido a seguridad vial. Lo cual da una cierta transparencia, yo creo que también, en fin, que ayuda un poco a que el ciudadano lo entienda. Y yo creo que es un sistema eficiente. En otros países lo que se hace es un porcentaje del seguro del automóvil, Colombia, o algún porcentaje de la fiscalidad del automóvil va directamente dedicado a seguridad vial. Yo creo que estos sistemas son buenos porque garantizan una estabilidad. No dependes un poco de la oportunidad política de aquel año de la seguridad vial. Estos son los costes directos. Luego hay los indirectos. Claro que hay todo el tema de infraestructuras, claro que hay todo el tema de transportes, claro que hay todo el tema de movilidad. Este es más difícil de calcular. En estos momentos en España lo que sí estamos es haciendo un gran esfuerzo para todos los gastos colocarlos en objetivos del desarrollo sostenible, de la Agenda de Desarrollo Sostenible 2030, todas las partidas, lo cual esto nos puede facilitar llegar a tener una cierta idea aproximada del gasto, de la inversión global que se hace en seguridad vial. Vale, y por último, simplemente un mensaje. No nos equivoquemos, no es un tema solo de recursos económicos. A veces uno tiene la impresión de que según dónde, es que nos faltan recursos. No busquen, en seguridad vial, no busquen culpables, busquen soluciones.
Thank you very much. I think we don't want to reduce it to money, but we want to talk about how investment flows can be used, how we can structure them in order to create leverage. I think that would be the point here. But let me now go to the two multilateral representatives on the panel, starting with the AU Commissioner and then coming to the Vice President at the back, to talk about how we can better embed safety considerations in investment flows right from the outset. So starting with you, Commissioner.
First, let me thank you for inviting me to this panel. And as I just learned at the outset, the Honorable MP has just been re-elected yesterday, so congratulations. Investments in road safety. This is a very tricky issue. It's a very important one, but it's very tricky. Because I really very much like the intervention from His Excellency from Spain. It's not one sector. You can, target or earmark some investments for road safety, but the thing is, road safety is a multifaceted issue, and whatever you do, it has to be taken into account. So let's just talk about the African Union, because this is what I am best, positioned to do. It is true we do have. You asked earlier about a line budget for road safety. We do have a line budget for road safety. Is it adequate? Of course not. Of course not. It is important, of course, because this is what we use in order to either draft a policy, prepare the workshops, do our advocacy work. But then again, the issue, if we talk about the industry, that's another matter. If we talk about the response, the health response, emergency responses, that's the colleague, who is dealing with health issues, in the Commission. And of course, they do work on improving the health response emergency services after, not just after crash, but across the board. Our politicians elevating the matter to the political level. That's a very important work that we do, and we keep trying to push it. So the answer is yes, we do target, or what we hope to do is to continue leveraging funds and investments for this important cause and policy, because it is a cause and a policy. And to make it available and sustainable for our countries. What we also did is that, because political will, you see, is very important. Aside from the African Charter for Road Safety, which, by the way, has not yet been ratified or did not gather the minimum number of ratifications to make it effective, something that I called for today in my meeting with the honorable ministers from Africa. But aside from that, we have what we call the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. And we are into the second phase of that program. It starts 2021 to 2030. We made it an imperative to include safety as an important and the necessary element for the roads to be adopted in Africa. And that reiterates, the point you just mentioned in your intervention earlier about like we do for environmental soundness, want to make sure that safety as well is included as a necessary component of roads to be adopted by Africa. The second element that we keep, that we keep saying to our countries, because we have a fantastic opportunity in Africa, and that's digitalization. Sometimes people do not, do not see the link Africa and latest technologies. Africa is the continent where the latest technologies, by the way, are being implemented and adopted, unlike, the stereotypes. I mean, talking about drones, surveilling, these are things that you would see maybe in Africa, but not in other parts of the world, or some parts of the world. We have the advantage of not always having a legacy, and or developing new towns and new roads and new cities. So we really have an opportunities of doing things right, and to benefit from the latest technologies. And technology is available. And our young people, many of whom are here, they are doing fantastic things, including also in safety. And so when we call and when we say our roads in the new program 2030, not only to include safety and to make it necessary component of the roads that we adopt, but also we added smart. And smart, we mean by it not just for traffic management, but also to manage aspects of safety. I mean, at the end of the day, road is for people, not for cars. Again, engineers think it's for cars, but we should rethink that and make sure that the roads are made for people first. So investments, yes. We are also looking into unconventional ways of raising investments. I mean, of course, there is, the support that we get from our own budget. I mean, the national budgets, but also the IFIs, the funds for road safety and for transport. More importantly, we want to make sure that the insurers, the private sector, the automotive industries, and I'm sure you heard me this morning in my intervention at the opening. I called for everybody because it is a shared responsibility. We cannot just throw it on developing countries and say, oh, you are doing bad. Everybody is responsible, and everybody should also share the responsibility in doing that, including investment.
And we have an investor on the panel, but I'm first going to go to you, Vice President Diop, with actually two questions, because as Barry Sherman was talking, suddenly the words Stern Report flashed through my mind. The idea that by really making the GDP loss and burden visible, the Stern Report at that time did, I think, act as a catalyst for action. And I wonder, is there a parallel here? Stern at that time was chief economist of the bank, if I'm not Yeah. Is there a parallel here? Are the things that you can do as a major multilateral institution to raise awareness by making that economic link perhaps even clearer? And after you answer that, I'm going to ask you about standards, safeguards.
No, I fully agree with you. I mean, what you have been hearing here is that awareness of people on the impact of road safety on the economy. A lot of people coming here maybe didn't know that it was between 1% and 5%, in some countries, 6% of GDP. That's an important figure. And on all these issues, we need to bring the Minister for Finance at the heart of that conversation. And I think because they are the one allocating the resources, until they are conscious that this is an investment instead of a cost, as you said, they will not be able to raise awareness. So bring the Minister for Finance, along with the Minister of Transport, the Minister of Health, to discuss that question and see the economic impact. What Nixon did when he was preparing this report is to show two things: the cost, but also the intertemporal impact of climate change on future generations. And I think that's what we are not documenting enough. So that's why we just released today a report which start to be a beginning to document a bit more what is the economic impact of road safety, and try to have a certain number of indicators that we monitor together. But I think that we need to say something about financing, because financing is not about only financing the implication and consequence of road safety, but is investing in prevention. And prevention is there is a public intervention, and Transmilenio, when it was created, I was working on Latin America at that time. The idea was not about safety; it was about to improve mobility, urban mobility. But by doing that, the Colombians thought about it after in a holistic way and thought that it was also having an impact on road safety, and it was integrated. I think that climate change, what is happening today on the coronavirus, and what is happening on road safety is linked to prevention, and insurance are playing an important role. I think that when you're thinking about investment, we need to think about private sector, and I think that the insurances and the private sector are essential component of helping in setting the standard, because it's a business proposition for them to reduce the premium. So preparing people in reducing the number of casualties is for them make business sense. The same for these extreme events that we'll be facing more and more on climate change. It makes sense for people in the insurance industry to invest and prevent it. This is the same with the virus that we have. So we can have here a win-win approach in financing prevention and raising awareness, and together, by talking more about it from the private sector side, from the public side, from the politician side, we can increase the awareness and therefore being able to show the cost of it and the need to act now. I think that without showing that economic cost, that financial cost, and the intergenerational impact, because it is affecting the youth more than anybody else, we are affecting the prospect of growth of a nation.
Now, one brief follow-up, if I may, on safeguards, because you now have put safety factors into your safeguards. What do you think they are going to catalyze? How do you see the impact of that? Safeguards meaning, I suppose the audience knows, but essentially the conditions that have to be met for the bank to agree to fund.
Safeguard is leveraging. What we are doing when we are talking about finance, and I have my colleague here, Art Scheffer, who is covering South Asia, we're trying to have incentive for the government to change their policies fundamentally, and therefore leveraging the money. It's not about what the World Bank and what EIB or African Development Bank will put, but to look at the overall expenditures made in the country by the government. So, for instance, what we're doing today, what we'll be doing in India, is prepare a policy lending of $500 million that will be helping India to change the law and implement the policies that are important. This is very small in the budget of India, but we will leverage a lot of expenditure which are approved. The second thing is that we are also helping the private sector to set standards and to help in the implementation. In some countries, the private sector have a higher implementation capacities than the public sector. So by raising the standard, you are allowing also an implementation of the safety rule of regulation to have another component of society. And let's not forget the civil society. The civil society, for me, is an important partner in it, because at the end of the day, when you are talking about things like road safety, about climate change, about prevention of virus, we're talking about the social contract in a society, and NGOs are an important component of it.
Thank you. Of course.
Worried me about just one thing you said. I'm very happy for private sector investment, but when we look at the opportunities, I mean, we're talking today about finance, and the fact is some of us, like Britain and Sweden, have 0.7% of GDP for international development. That is a huge, tens of billions of pounds that are on offer. And that partnership and that's good, sound money. It's not any company that's strings attached and, you do this if we get our own way with other contracts. And some countries are, rather more trustworthy in terms of that partnership. As I have to say, some private sector partners are a lot more reliable than others. And so getting the right balance between who you trust, who delivers, not just short term, but long term, is very important.
But I fully agree with you, and let me rebound on this, because it's very important. That's your role, the role that you're playing. Let's see the conversation, how it's changed around privacy, in data privacy in the world. How the private sector today is moved, how their position is changing, how they're becoming more and more conscious that data privacy is something that cannot be treated the way it was treated in the past. we are not where we want to be, but things are changing. And why it changed? Because we had more and more that discussion, we became a public discussion, parliament, civil society, private sector. And my view is that we will have in each of these, people will be at the avant-garde, if you can say. We see some people in the private sector, we are ahead of the curve, and those will be lagging behind. But I do believe that those who are working at, who are leading a little bit that conversation will be pulling much faster as the other one, because today we have these young people out there in yellow who are not giving the option of saying no.
There are a whole bunch of Greta Thunbergs out there.
Let me bring our private sector voice now into the discussion. You've been very patiently waiting, Madam Vesson. Thank you so much. Folksam has a very long history, actually, of concern for social sustainability. If I understand correctly, it's part of your birthright.
True.
So how do you engage on the issue of road safety as an insurer and as an investor?
Well, I'm sitting here on $55 billion US. So, and of course, we have a business case here. That's obvious. But that's not the only reason why we're doing this. Folksam is a mutual insurance company and pension company in Sweden. And we have a long tradition of working with sustainability. Our vision is that our customers should feel secure in a sustainable world. And that runs through everything we do and every act we take. Where we are now with Folksam, we are Sweden's largest insurance company. We insure every other household, which means more or less the half of the population is insured by Folksam. So what we do is important. And we have currently $55 billion US under asset management. And for nearly 20 years, we have had responsible investment criteria regarding for how we invest. For example, human rights, climate, anti-corruption. And I'll take one example that we have done as an investment is one was targeted at improving road infrastructure and building cycle path in the city of Gothenburg. And that's an example how we address the SDGs. It improves both the road traffic safety and health for those who take the bike instead of the car. But I can see two things that would help us to move further here. As being in the large institutional investors and having a tradition of working with sustainability. And as Maria Kraft said just after lunch, there are no business on a dead planet. So I think we can do two things to contribute to roads traffic safety further on. Folksam has already invested in green bonds from the World Bank and the European Investment Bank. But if there would be possibilities of other kind of bonds, for example, a traffic safety bond, we would definitely look into this. That would be an interesting investment for us with a clear business case. There should be possibilities to add traffic safety requirements in the bonds that's already emitted that are aiming to improve road infrastructure. Why don't we have that condition in that kind of bonds already? And we are not alone. Even though we're representing $55 billion US, taking the mutual companies in the world, the vast majority together manage $9 trillion US. So we can have a huge impact here if you give us the opportunity. Second, we have talked about it earlier today as well. It was our minister, Thomas Eneroth, who presented the Stockholm Declaration. What is being measured and reported is being done. So, and if traffic safety were to be included in the standards of sustainability reporting, we could use that data to have a dialogue and to have to push those companies that we also invest in to have their business model being more or improving the road traffic safety. And in that way, we're working through the entire value chain, not only with us investing in bonds for traffic safety, but also through other investments where we can push those companies to address traffic issues. So yes, we can be of importance here.
Could we knock on your door?
Please do.
And say, I've always believed, we have a campaign in the UK that I started called Stop the Knock. The knock on the door when the policeman or policewoman comes to the house, so many million every year, and says, your daughter's dead. Your son's dead, your mum, your dad, your uncle, your aunt. And I've always thought in terms of money, finance, all those families that are hurt and bereaved, if they could invest in a bond like that, and Stop the Knock would become an investment opportunity to do something in the community about road safety.
I have to confess something. I think I earned my time here because before coming on stage, my colleague Guang Chen, who is the director for transport, told me if you can get one thing from this panel, which is to have a road safety bond, you have earned your time. So
there we go.
Once we have a deal here, we have the parliamentarians who are supporting it.
Yes.
We have the institutional investors who are supporting it. We can help structuring it. So I think that we have a good outcome.
Perfect. That's what we call collaboration. Very good. So I saw a lot of great interest in your suggestions. Let me ask everybody on the panel who wants...
Thank you.
So let me call you all to order first. One moment. We have very little time left on the clock, but what I would like to do, because essentially Madame Vessen has now laid out the idea of innovative instruments that we could use. So let me get everybody to briefly react on that point and say perhaps other innovative instruments you think we need to be thinking about. And again, request for very concise answers. And you raised your hand first, Director General, so please.
Bueno, un poco alrededor de lo que hablaban de la sociedad civil y del sector privado. Uno tiene la impresión de que en España la sociedad civil ya ha decidido que esto de los accidentes de tráfico es demasiado importante para dejarlo solo en manos del gobierno. Con lo cual, nadie espera que el gobierno solo resuelva el problema. También han descubierto, y soy gobierno, que el gobierno funciona por presión. Si hay presión social, el gobierno funciona y se esfuerza. Y si no hay presión social, se relaja, el gobierno se relaja. Con lo cual la sociedad se ha empoderado del tema de la seguridad vial. Las empresas de transporte público de pasajeros o de personas por carretera no esperan a que el gobierno saque una norma de seguridad. Ellos saben que con la seguridad se juegan su imagen. Es la imagen de la empresa, es la supervivencia de la empresa, con lo cual cuando vienen a ver al despacho, bueno, me explican todo de cosas que ya han hecho, y no han esperado que el gobierno, dice, no, pero el gobierno podría hacer esto que ya hemos hecho nosotros. Y yo les contesto, uy, esto del gobierno es muy complicado, necesita mucho tiempo, esto no es tan sencillo. No sé si me explico, que han cogido ya la rienda, va por delante. En España la sociedad civil va por delante del gobierno. Tira y el gobierno hace lo que puede, va detrás. Uno. Dos, y para las empresas. Las empresas han entendido, en su día incorporaron la cultura de la calidad. Una empresa que no tenga un sello de calidad no tiene futuro. Luego incorporaron la cultura del medio ambiente. Una empresa que no sea con respeto al medio. Ahora están incorporando la cultura de la seguridad vial. Saben que una empresa que no tiene plan de seguridad vial, que no se preocupa de sus ciudadanos, que no se preocupa de todo lo que hace referencia a su plan de movilidad segura y demás, y buscan sellos de calidad de movilidad segura. Es decir, poco a poco la cultura de la seguridad vial va entrando en la sociedad y no esperan que el gobierno se lo resuelva. Uno. Dos, otra, déjame un apunte, decía innovadores.
Sorry, I've got an eye on the clock. Super brief, if you would, please.
Hay un debate muy interesante en estos momentos en España que viene a decir algo así como estamos en un momento estratégico de seguridad vial. Llevamos 50 años culpando a los conductores porque corren, beben y se distraen. Y son los culpables de los accidentes de tráfico. Dice, hombre, ya sabíamos que los conductores a veces corren, beben y se distraen. Y ahora es cuando estamos cambiando el paradigma y diciendo, bueno, vale, vamos ahora a trabajar en un escenario en el que, aun cuando el conductor corra, beba o se distraiga, el resultado no sea un accidente mortal o unas heridas graves. Y la apuesta es el vehículo conectado. Yo creo que este va a ser el gran salto adelante en seguridad vial, en nuestra opinión.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Other comments on the question of financing and innovative instruments? Let me just go down here, and then I'll come to you, Barry, at the end, if I may. So we're coming back to you at the very end. Madam Commissioner.
I believe I did mention the importance of including the private sector and specifically insurers, and thank you very much for the excellent point. And when we say the private sector and the insurers, because we are also aware that we are, I mean, in the world we are seeing a different private sector and the insurance industry. Ethical issues now, as you rightly mentioned, and issues of sustainability are at the heart of what our private sector now is considering, because this is how actually your shares also get higher. I mean, our young people are putting also the pressure on the private sector to behave ethically. So that's also an opportunity to grasp, and we want to make sure that you are part of this. But speaking about Africa, we also need to bring the African private sector into the conversation, not just the international. And I reiterate the importance of political will. We need our governments to strongly commit to road safety issues. And that's another plea and appeal for our governments in Africa to put this high on the agenda. So that is even sometimes more important than just funds. We need the political will. We need our own people, whether they are in the private sector or the public sector, to embrace and to buy into that thing. Now, I cannot undermine at all, on the contrary, but encourage, and again, I'm diverting a little bit from the issue of investment because it's not everything, it's the importance of the civil society. We have seen the calls by our young people this morning and how important they are into the decision making and into conceptualizing the work that we are doing, making sure that people come first. This is, to us, I think it is very much at the heart of the issue, even more pressing than investments. And with these together, I am sure investments will come. There is no short of investments.
Okay, I'm just going to bring in Minister Carrasco, and then I'm coming to you. I promise, Barry Sherman.
I'm also concerned about thinking it's a matter of new investments before raising the awareness of the holistic approach to it. Of course, we need money to raise the awareness, to teach the territories, the small municipalities. In Colombia, we are 1,100 municipalities, and we only have like a traffic director in 7 of them doesn't have a traffic authority. So that's an issue, of course. But the most important issue is how we convince everybody that this is something that you have to raise the awareness, and that this is the second violent cause of death after homicides and the first cause of death for young people. So I believe, and I'm concerned, thinking that you have a lot of new resources. It's going to be useless unless you have raised the awareness, unless you get people to know that this is as important as any other human right and as any other violent issue. And of course, we need new sources. One of the things we're working with our insurance, we have a mandatory insurance for cars that is based on the victims. We also want the insurance companies to work with us in a draft that will change a little bit so that it will give a premium to people that really don't use the insurance so much. Because today it's only mandatory for everybody, and it doesn't have any sort of incentive. And if you have the incentive, then you will see who you lend your car to and how you introduce. And we also have a national agreement with the companies, both cargo and passengers company, so that they have road safety plans that we supervise and overview, and they introduce practices that we need to massively adopt with the small and medium-sized companies in Colombia.
Thank
Can I
you.
just
Barry
say that
Shearman,
it's so important. This is such good stuff coming from everyone, I think, that we want your initiatives, we want to do stuff, we want to please young people, but it is our job, with a bit of the wisdom we've had in this field for a long time, to say, how do we know what's a good investment? And that's got to be good research. And I'm worried that people like Michael Bloomberg say, we know everything. We don't know everything. There's a lovely group called ECORSI that has just come through and evaluated all the research in transport safety worldwide for the last 60 years. Absolutely maps, in terms of data, what has been researched, what has been successful, and what hasn't. And if we don't have research-based answers, people will run around, make mistakes again, listen to the universities, to the researchers, the wonderful people working all their own, and in the private sector, before we just leap and say, it's just activity.
Thank you very much. Let me ask whether Vice President Diop or Madam Wesson has a last word that you would like to impart before we...
I would just reinforce your last point about research and analytics. I think it's essential to raise awareness, to create a condition for social bond, to be able... Just to give you an example, quickly on Africa, we are currently having a study on doing randomized controlled trials. Oh, yeah. And we found out that, in fact, Matatu is of informal sector transportation in Kenya. So that most of the accidents, the black spot were 200 meters from where the Matatu was dropping the people. So by having that information, you can be much more effective in the use of money that you're collecting, because you will intervene where you have those black spots, where you have the behavior of passengers who are jumping out of the Matatu and cross the road quickly, etc., all these kind of things. So I can just support very much the need for doing more analytical work, and I think that we are not yet where we should be in that area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Being an insurance company, it's not only investments that are important to us. Of course, our customers and our policyholders, their safety are the most important to us. And since the 70s, we have an own research department who is focusing on road traffic safety. And the result from that research, which is based on data from our customers' accidents, and consumer tests as well, we can guide our policyholders how to pick a safe car with a premium reduction for pay as you drive, safe drivers get reduced premiums. So we can also support in that way, and that is, of course, really important to us.
The insurer as a nudger, essentially.
True, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So let me now ask Vice President Pavlova, if you would, to try to wrap up in a minute and a half, because we are really over our time. So I'd appreciate it if you could just really hit the headlines. That would be great.
Well, thank you very much. I'll try really to be brief. I think the main message we have here, first, we need a holistic approach in what we need to do and to deliver. Road safety is not a cost, but it is an investment, and this is what should be considered. And this is the main message of our panel. Yeah. Road safety is an investment. And the key messages we have from this, there is a need of awareness raising. Yeah. There is a need of really having enforcement, because it's not only about funding, because all of us, MDBs, IFIs, we can ensure and we can do our part of the job. The funding is not the only thing. We need enforcement, we need governments, public authorities, local authorities. We should not underestimate the role of local authorities as well, civil society, public sector, all involved in the process as well, but then we need good legislation and we need enforcement. And the third message is prevention. This is the most important. We can't allow ourselves anymore accepting. We have people dying. We need to work and we need to do anything possible on prevention. Speaking on prevention, these are definitely measures. Infrastructure, because we were talking a lot on how to invest in new roads, in maintaining old roads. Definitely, this is really an important factor. But this is only 1/3 of the problem. because then we need really prevention and doing the right job is as well in our urban areas, urban environment, health systems, education. Education is should be very, very high on our agenda. Culture, this is kind of a mindset. We need to educate our people, and this is our common goal. I mean, and I believe we should all take all our commitments today, not as a burden, but as an opportunity to deliver, to work, and to save lives of our future generations as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And sorry about that time pressure, but that was an admirable summing up. So thank you to the entire panel, a very, very lively and productive interaction, and all done under very tight circumstances at the end of a long day. So many thanks to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, before you leap out of your seats, we have a very short film to show you of impressions of the day. And after that, I will come back with just a word on what's going to happen tomorrow morning, namely the parallel sessions. So do stay with us just for one brief moment to look back at this very intensive and interesting day.
And whether this in Moscow, the decade for action.
I think it's fantastic that we're gathering the global community around the issue of safety, and I'm really looking forward to some insightful information sharing and really defining the future and taking the steps into reaching our goals in 2030.
We're expecting for a good outcome which involves the youth in this decision-making table.
My expectations are to get to meet a whole bunch of new people, learn more about traffic safety and how it connects to other issues such as the climate crisis and poverty, racism, all of that, and how we can work together to solve it.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to join the global leaders, to join our voices to shape the future of road safety.
I'm going to be interacting with many ministers of works and transport to get ideas on how to construct infrastructure for people.
And I hope that especially there will be more involvement with the private sector, governments, that we all work together to try to make reduction a serious impact on road safety.
I represent industry, the automotive suppliers in Europe, and I want to share that expertise with others, but I also want to learn what the needs are.
Everybody sitting together is a wonderful thing. We're quite high that we would be able to reduce the fertility rate by 50% in 2030. So we wish we could do all-inclusive transport in India like Sweden.
The thing I'm hoping to take home after these few days, a lot of good connections. If we're going to do something, we have to do it in collaboration. We have to do it with each other in partnership. So I'm really hoping to meet some good people here to start that journey.
Let's give those filmmakers a little round of applause. Dear panel, you may now please take your seats while I just give a few instructions about the parallel sessions. Thank you so much for your participation and attention. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning we have a dazzling array of parallel sessions, and I am not going to try to read off all of the topics, you'll be glad to know, but here they are. And you do not need to pre-register. You simply go to the ones that interest you. And we will begin tomorrow morning. There are then 3 rounds of successive parallel sessions, as you can see up here. And they are all being conducted by leading stakeholders with a lot of potential for interaction. So I hope that you will take part and find them useful. Directly following the 3rd set of sessions, there will be a lunch break, including a ministerial lunch for all Commonwealth member states. That's by invitation only, as well as refreshments here in the building at all the same locations as today for those not at that ministerial lunch. And we meet back here tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 p.m. for our final plenary session, including a high-level panel on international collaboration, picking up on a few of the themes that we have had here in the course of the day today. And now, first of all, I would like to say thank you for your attention and your punctuality and being a wonderful audience through this very, very intensive day. So many thanks to all of you, and it is my pleasure and honor to invite you on behalf of the hosts and organizers to now take part in the welcome reception just outside in the hall. Enjoy yourselves. See you back here tomorrow. Thanks. Thank you.